What is the Matrix? Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
It is February 3rd, 2009. Massive gun bills to completely ban any guns the Attorney General wishes by extrajudiciary fiat through tyranny. Bills to psychologically register and control all Americans, to ban anybody who they put on a no-fly list, over 1 million people innocently being able to own guns, period. Just absolute tyranny coming down on us. And one of the bills, this H.R. 45, interviewed by this Congressman Hastings, is the one to register everybody and put you through federal psychological testing and training. Just total control. They've got bills now. Defense Department announces civilian expeditionary force. So the new thing, separate, as big as the military, that's been announced openly. They've been saying they would do it. It's all happening. But we're about to go to Mike Rivero. We're live at PrisonPlanet.tv, simulcasting with a radio show. But I wanted to go back to Joshua in Florida so that he could give out Mr. Hastings' phone number and also tell us about a 9/11 Truth event he's got coming up. And he's also got a flyer there with him, so if you'd like to go over that flyer, later I'm going to go through the laundry list of bills again, but go ahead.
Yeah, pretty much I have to type up the flyer, but I'm just going to do a brief synopsis of all this bogus legislation and try to get the word out on campus. But his number again for the Washington, D.C. office is 202-225-1313, and his Fort Lauderdale office is 954-733-2800. And again, on the 21st of this month at 11 a.m., we're going to have a street action event out here on the busy intersection in front of the University of Central Florida. And a lot of the 9/11 truth groups from around the state are going to be coming here. We have like 1,000 copies of Fabled Enemies, Loose Change, Terror Storm, 9/11 Mystery.
Let me just ask you, where is there a website? Is there a contact point for folks to network?
Absolutely. If you go to, most people are probably familiar with www.meetup.com. You can go there, and if you just search for Orlando 9/11 Truth, it should pop right up.
Got it. Hey, good to hear from you. Call us back in the next few days with a report on your action against the enemy. If good people take action and educate the other sheep about what's going on, they won't be able to get away with this. Mike Rivero, we're about to break, but I want to bring you up with whatreallyhappened.com. He'll be with us a little bit into the next hour. We're going to have open phones. There's a lot to talk about today, a host of issues, but let's talk about the Second Amendment first. This is bold. The attack they're launching with a lot of sponsorship for bills. And I know you've been listening, psychological testing, outright bans, anybody on the no-fly list or the criminal watch list. It's over 2 million, no-fly list over 1 million, passed that number last year. This is huge, Mike, so your take on that as we go into break.
Well, basically, this morning on whatreallyhappened.com, we have the video by Rahm Emanuel basically coming out and saying that anybody on the no-fly list should not be allowed to purchase a handgun. And outside of being an absolute violation of the Second Amendment, the reality is that we know a lot of people on that no-fly list shouldn't be there. They're there because they share a name with a terrorist. They've been put on there by mistake. We've heard stories about even senators and congressmen being blocked from entering airplanes because their name somehow winds up on the list. So with the credibility and accuracy of the list so much in doubt, how does the government and how does Rahm Emanuel get off basically saying if you're on the list, you're not an American and you don't deserve any of the rights anymore, which he's on video saying this. And it is an absolute outright gun grab. And the government is afraid of the American people starting to protest the way we're seeing in Europe right now. But if you go back and you read the founding documents of this country, the Second Amendment was not about hunting or sport shooting. It was about making sure the American people had the means to resist government gone wrong.
Absolutely. We're going to come back to Mike Rivero after this quick break and get more into this. There's more than 10 bills introduced. They've got massive sponsorship. There's hardly any mainstream news reporting on this, where the Attorney General, outside of any courts, can just ban any guns he wants. They say they're going to ban basically all semi-autos. That's the majority of firearms. And everybody, if you have any kind of psychological issue, they make you give over your private records, even juvenile, can't own guns. The no-fly list is a political weapon. They're going to do this. No judge, no jury. This is total tyranny. Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is? There's a lot of tough guys that always shoot their mouths off and say, I'm not going to go get involved in the fight for the Second Amendment. They're trying to shut down private transfer of firearms, private sales, selling it to your neighbor, giving it to your grandson. They're raiding, SWAT team people that buy family firearms or family that store their firearms, say at somebody else's house. They're trying to nitpick with rules and regulations that aren't even law. And they're coming after the Second Amendment with open nationwide gun registration and bans of all semi-autos. It's all introduced by prominent members of the administration. Rahm Emanuel, the chief of staff, Eric Holder, the new attorney general sworn in today, has in briefs before the Supreme Court and in other areas has called for total gun ban. Barack Obama introduced legislation supporting nationwide Chicago-style gun bans. This is it. And now they want it to where, and then they've been floating this. This is from 2 years ago. We played the Rahm Emanuel audio earlier. Later we'll play the video for everybody watching at prisonplanet.tv and folks listening on the radio. He just says, no Second Amendment right for you if you're on the no-fly list if we think maybe you might be a terrorist. But under the Patriot Act, it's all misdemeanors. It's people talking back to a flight attendant. It's owning marijuana. No more Second Amendment. But people are on the list and can't get off the list. Mike Rivero of WhatReallyHappened.com, this is just classic extrajudiciary tyranny outside the system. And they're doing that on every front. We're not even the president, but even his designates can just say, ban, 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 or I put you on a list. Ban, ban, ban. Or we decide if you can own a gun. This is really happening, and it ties into Patriot Act compliance, where they're saying no bank account if you haven't paid your taxes, no job if you haven't paid your taxes, or if you don't pay, but we said you owe. But then his entire cabinet, it turns out, don't pay taxes. This is a crew of criminals.
Yeah, it absolutely is. There's a double standard. It's the do as we say, don't do as we do mentality, and it's almost a joke. They're talking about the taxes are going to have to go up to cover all of this deficit spending for the stimulus package, which isn't really stimulating much of anything except a few special interests, and yet we're finding out all of the insiders and the upper-level people, they're all using these tax havens, they're avoiding taxes, they're outright refusing to pay, and relying on their political connections to keep them safe from prosecution. And it really is a very obvious hypocrisy, but the bottom line is the U.S. government recognizes they have pushed the American people to the edge of an outright revolt. They're seeing it happen all across Europe. I had a phone call from a friend of mine in Europe yesterday. He says, you are not even beginning to hear the depth of this over there in the United States. It is far, far worse than is being reported in the international media. Just rioting everywhere in France and Iceland and Ireland now, and it's really out of control. And the U.S. government knows it's going to be coming here. They're trying to keep people from thinking about it. That's why we're getting John Benet Ramsey on the news again today after all this time. They're desperate to put out something that sounds like news without talking about how bad the economy is and without talking about the fact that pretty much around the world people are saying enough to this debt-based monetary system of enslavement.
Yeah, that's why we're hearing about Michael Phelps and he smokes some weed. Forget the bankers stealing trillions and not even paying taxes and just open corruption everywhere. That doesn't matter. It's Michael Phelps is the news.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just trivialization. It's tabloidism. And it really is. It's just one distraction after another. That's why we can never seem to get rid of Sarah Palin in the news. It's just anything they can put out there that they hope will distract us. And I like to call it the contentization of the news, because back in 2001, when the U.S. was telling every other country we were getting ready to invade Afghanistan, all we got in this country was Gary Condit and Chandra Levy for week after week after week after week until, boom, 9/11 happens, and all of a sudden we're off to war in Afghanistan. Big surprise for the Americans, no surprise for anybody else.
That's a key point of 9/11 being an inside job, that 44,000 U.S. troops, 18,000 British troops massed in Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, in a 6-month armored buildup. It's all over foreign news they're going to invade. And then the 9/11 magically happens so they can invade. And Bush signs the launch order to attack in 1 week on September 10th. And his brother gets a bill passed to declare martial law if they wanted to in Florida. They knew that 9/11 was going to be worse. But for some reason, Flight 93 didn't go into the Capitol or its real target. They were planning federal decapitation of the government.
Well, they were definitely planning on hijacking the government into a war machine, and as far as Flight 93 is concerned, I am convinced that the crew regained control of the airplane, and had it landed safely, the whole story, the whole cover-up would have been blown, and that's why they had to shoot it down.
And we know that from high-level colonels and officers and state police who witnessed the F-16s and the explosion. That's why it was an 8-mile debris field. That sources the state police. They try to debunk that, but we have the news articles and the videos. But to make a long story short, yeah, we know they shot 2 AIM-9s, and that even came out in the NORAD tapes. They fired 2 AIM-9s, which are Sidewinder missiles, into it.
And, yeah, they had to bring it down because the whole cover-up and deception of this false flag rested on there being no survivors. It's like when Israel attacked the USS Liberty, they were going to frame Egypt for us and sucker the U.S. into the war on Israel's side. But the ship didn't sink, and so the whole operation fell apart.